So good morning or good night, depending on where you are, and welcome to another album anniversary of The Shield on a Couch. I'm your host, Hector, and tonight we're going to talk about this album that is turning 20 years old this Saturday, and it's Linkin Park-Meteora, and the big 20-0. So again, I'm joined by Senorita Sabrosura. So Senorita, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can you believe that this album is turning 20?
20 years. Wow. It's fast. And I didn't know you had it on vinyl. How does it play? Is it like a
It's
good vinyl?
Yeah,
Good stuff?
it plays good, but you remember this? I think back in 2021, on the record release day. No, was the day that they released records. What's Oh my God!
Record Store Day.
Record Store Day. They released a version of this that was with blue vinyl. But
Mhm.
unfortunately, this is not that one. That one
Oh,
sold
okay.
out super quickly. So this is just plain black, but I got it because I liked it. So I didn't care. And it was like blue, but yeah, okay, it was blue, but I don't think it had
No, but the most
anything.
important thing is the sound.
Yeah, I think that right now people are so obsessed with the variants that sometimes having like color variants doesn't mean that it's going to sound better. Sometimes it's
Yeah.
cool having those color variants, but
Yeah.
like what
Well,
the
if you can get it, but yes, but if not, it doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter. So I got the Nor they since that sold out and they didn't make that much, they put it out in black, and I got it in black, and I'm like,
Oh.
okay, great, got it because actually sometimes I think that Meteora is my favorite Linkin Park album, even though
Okay.
the first one is so great. I think I like the second one a little bit better, or sometimes it depends on the day. Sometimes I would say
It
Hybrid
depends
Theory
on the mood, I think.
on the mood. I think it's what Linkin Park did with this album. It was a great follow-up album. It's not easy following up a first album as monumental as Hybrid Theory was.
Exactly.
And yeah, they
But
did it
this,
with this album.
this is the album we expected after that one.
Yeah, no, it's like when Pearl Jam released 10. When the sophomore album versus is really good, but I think with Pearl Jam 10 you can't touch it. But with Linkin Park, I think depending on the mood, some people might say that Meteora is the superior album. Some people will say Hybrid Theory, and I don't think anyone else would mention any other album. But I do enjoy some of their other albums. But the first two albums were game changers. So back in 2003, when this came out, Senorita, what were your initial thoughts on it?
Well, I wasn't a very big fan of new metal, but I was a fan. I like Linkin Park, and I was worried like, is it gonna be good like the first one, or not? But it was a nice surprise. It's for me, it's more like a darker sequel of that first album. Like the lyrics are dark, but very catchy at the same time. And I know when people listening 20 years ago, there was like mixed reviews, and some people told like, oh, they went mainstream, they are sellouts now. But I like it. I know it maybe has some songs with more commercial sound, but that doesn't make it a bad album.
Yeah, but the first album had some commercial sounding songs
I
too.
know,
Yeah,
but you know how people is. And for me, with this album, they proved that like they were not a one trick band. Like they could do something more. And I like the sound of this album, like the raw and like very energetic, but at the same time, like it's very raw.
yeah, it is, and uh, like something that when this came out, I think when the first single was "Somewhere I Belong,"
Mm-hmm.
and I think that was used in a movie or something. But I remember "Somewhere I Belong." had that catchiness to it. It was a great bridge from the sound of Hybrid Theory to Meteora. I remember some people were complaining that basically Meteora was Hybrid Theory Part 2. And whatever, yeah, I think.
Well, maybe, but it's a good part too. I don't care. For me, it's a darker album.
Yeah, and I think on this album they use a little bit more electronics in some of the songs
In some of the songs.
than on the first record. And when this came out, I enjoyed it. Like at that, you have to imagine at that time, like new metal was kind of like more fading on the outside, and Linkin Park were like the people they were rising. Like you have to think they came after Korn, after other bands. They started in 2000, so new metal had been a thing for a few years, and they took it to another level. And I think something that I think it's different from Linkin Park to other of those new metal bands, I think, is the duality vocals of Chester Bennington and Mike Shinoda with the rapping. Because I think they bounce out of each other so well, it doesn't sound forced. And I think Mike Shinoda was a great. I like his rapping style. I think because it wasn't, it wasn't Fred Durst from it was good. And another thing, that band had a lot of minorities in them. You had the DJ Han, who I think I don't know if he was Chinese or where he was, but Oriental. And Mike Shinoda obviously had like you didn't know where he was from. So I like the mixture of the band. The band had like different elements to it, and like I said, the duality of Chester Bennington, rest in peace, and Mike Shinoda. I think it really worked. What do you think about that? Like the two of them, like
like I say, like I wasn't a big fan. Like I didn't like Limp Bizkit. I wasn't a big fan of the new metal sound, but I like Linkin Park. For me, it works. Like I don't mind like him rapping over some verses or the melodies, and mixing with the rawness of Chester, like the scream sometimes, or more melodic voice. Like it works.
Yeah, it totally works. So looking back on it 20 years, like what are your favorite tracks from this album?
Well, of course, I like Breaking the Habit. For me, is I don't care what people say, it's one of the best songs on this album. Chester voice is incredible here. It has some catchy chorus. And I like the keyboard and the blend with the electronic elements here in this song.
Yeah, I think so as well. Like the electronics on that song are really good,
and
of
I
course,
think that's one of the reasons I like Linkin Park, because they mix with electronic and it works too.
Yeah, they mix alternative metal with some hip hop elements, electronic elements, and catchiness.
Yes.
Like they were able to do it, and having it all work so well. And on future releases, they were more experimental. They're a band that something that I can respect about them is they weren't afraid to take chances.
Exactly.
And if people didn't like it, I don't think they cared. And obviously,
they kept making music.
They kept making music until obviously the tragic passing of Chester. And I think Chester was great at, his voice was so soulful, but also could be angry, but vulnerable at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah, for example, on Breaking the Habit, like you were saying, Breaking the Habit is like you could really feel his pain on it, and very emotional.
Yeah, and I read that he didn't wrote that song, but when he first read it was like wow, like it connect with him because he was struggling with drugs and substance abuse. So he was breaking the habit, talking about that. Like it connect with him emotionally, and I think he cried and everything when first time.
Yeah, it's an emotional song. So what other tracks
Well, speaking of Chester Boys, I like From the Inside. Like, I love how he screams in this song. It feels so powerful, very raw, very emotional. Like you said, angry but emotional at the same time.
Yeah.
That's another favorite. Somewhere I Belong. I like this song. The intro remind me of Incubus. Uh, I the
Yeah, a
mix.
little bit of like Wish You Were Here,
Yeah,
but harder.
a mix of electronic with hip hop, metal, pop, and the scratching. I think that's what it reminds me of. Incubus, and then Mike Shinoda like raps over the smooth verses here before the powerful chorus comes in. It has like some post grunge vibes to it. Like if you take the other elements, it could be a grunge song.
It could, it could, it totally could.
And my favorite, I think it's my favorite song of the whole Linkin Park albums is Numb. Uh, it's a song that it's
Dun, dun,
impossible
dun,
not to sing.
dun, dun, dun. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a song not impossible not to sing along. It was a radio hit, success for something. The electronic atmosphere, the layering of the sounds and screams. Um, like Chester sounds like very strong but dramatic. Um, I think this is the biggest song ever released by them.
And they did a remix with Jay-Z, remember?
I know because JC like it so much, and I think this song is like a sneak peek, a dive into Chester's struggles. Like it's very emotional. It's a song that's very emotional without sounding emo.
Yeah, and in a very emo time,
I
2003.
know, because that's when emo started. The song heaviness and melody like add some depth to the track, and like you don't see it at that moment, but 20 years later, after Chester died, like you could see it was a scream for help,
Yeah, it
and it
totally.
shows his abilities, his great vocals ability.
Yeah, I would agree. Those are great tracks. So, yeah, let me talk about what I think are my favorite tracks. I like the album as a whole, but
Yeah.
one track that you didn't mention that I love this track is Faint.
Oh, I like it.
The rapping like I am a little bit insecure, a little bit of loneliness. Yeah, I can rap. That's my rapping abilities. I like how they do. And then you have Chester like I can't take the way I feel before. I
Yeah.
won't be ignored. And oh my, that song, the part where he screams into the mic, it's so great. That's a total banger. And it was also a single. It did good, but
Not
yeah,
as well as the other singles.
yeah, no, yeah. Somewhere I belong. It's the most. It's one of the more. It has more of that commercial appeal to the band, and it was a great first single. I think it was a
Mhm.
great bridge from Hybrid Theory to that one. I like Nobody's Listening. That one is like weird because it sounds like a Japanese sounds on that song. Like this, the electronic, it sounds like it's Japanese. And I like the interplay of Mike Shinoda's rapping with Chester singing on it. He's like, nobody's listen, try and you ignore me. Yeah. So yeah, I really like how they mesh well together. Also, Lying From You is a total banger as well. More harder song, that I really like. And I can't talk about this and not mention Numb, because
Yeah.
just the tun tan 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 tan, that initial like keyboard is just like, you hear it, it's so iconic. But now I listen to it and I hear JC rapping, because
Yeah.
I like the original a lot, but the one with JC, it really worked. It was really cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like all the tracks in this album, but yeah, I mentioned some other, like Easier to Run is also another one that's really good. Especially, I think the strong parts of these albums are the choruses. Linkin
Yes.
Park wrote some great catchy choruses, but you know what? They weren't corny.
Exactly. They were not corny.
You can be catchy without being corny. I know you mentioned Limp Bizkit. I enjoy some break stuff and some Nuki, but yeah, they were corny.
Yeah, they were more corny.
They were more corny, but Linkin Park,
And you compare Linkin Park to Limp Bizkit. Limp Bizkit sounds dated, but Linkin Park, there's songs like you can hear them now and it doesn't feel like dated.
yeah, I think it's because of the duality of the vocals and the electronics and
Mm-hmm.
everything. So yeah, so let's say 20 years later, how has this album held up for you?
I think for me, some songs like age better than others, but overall, it's a good album. And 20 years later, I enjoy it. And this album like mark a time when the band reached their peak in musical quality. Like it has some powerful lyrics, heavy riffs. It has some replay value. So it has aged well overall.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think this album, Meteora, has aged really well. And I can say it right now. To me, Linkin Park, even though they didn't start this genre, I think they're the undisputed kings of new metal. I think they're the best new metal band. When you think of new metal as a genre with the rapping, the but also the other elements of like harsher vocals and different, like, there's other bands that started it, but I think Linkin Park made it their own, and with the electronics. So I think when I think of if I would name what are the best new metal bands, I think Linkin Park would be it, because I love Deftones, but to me they're not new metal band.
No.
There's something else. But yeah, even with Korn and something, I think these albums have aged really well. And I even enjoyed their third album, and when they experimented a little bit more and got more commercial. So I think it's aged really well. And I think if this came out today, it would still be a hit. So what are your thoughts on Linkin Park's Meteora 20 years later? What are your favorite tracks? Comment. We would really want to know. And we would want to know, like, what other albums are turning 20 this year that haven't turned 20 yet, and you would like us to do a video on them. That would be good. People like, hey, this is turning 20, talk about this album. And, if you like the videos, do not forget to give me a like, and do not forget to subscribe. And also go ahead and follow Senorita Sabrosura on her channel.
And find me on Instagram and Facebook. Buy my merch.
Yeah, well, be careful. You got those creepy dudes that watch you on yeah, there's creepy people out there, but yeah. So yeah, so until next time, people, this is Hector, the shield on a couch,
Señorita Sabrosura.
and we'll see you on the next anniversary album review. Thank you and good night.